and rarely do we see. If we do see the main roster guys there, Matt, they're normally out of character. Like they're normally sitting there watching the matches, but they're not really there in character. Was you surprised that they went this way? That they've sort of included that as part of maybe that's going to be the run up to the storyline between Triple H and Seth Rollins, given their sort of history together back when of course they were both there at the time? Or do you think this was a little bit sort of overdone and not too much to think about it really? That the fact that Seth Rollins turned up on the Takeover show.
Yeah, I think that was a bit too much for me. I mean, I know it's where Seth Rollins started, so it's always going to play a part in his past. But I think this is more for the younger guys and the up and comers, and just to put that a little bit unfair, really, because it shouldn't be about the established stars, and especially not about Triple H. I know it's his kind of idea and his vision, and he has every right to be there, but don't come out there and start a section of it about yourself. If they were going to do this kind of angle, I feel like that would have been better suited for the night after. That could have been Royal Rumble's pre-show. Seth could have come out there and said, "I'm demanding to see Triple H, and I won't let the show start until then." And they could have had him removed by security. Then that would have made more sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. Well, it was interesting they'd done that, and then of course, that's. I mean, I thought that was going to gear up towards into the Royal Rumble, but that, of course, Matt, was pretty much left where that was, wasn't it? Really, we did not hear from that again, did we? On the Sunday night. So,
this is one of those exclusive kind of things. Apparently, Seth was banned from the stadium.
Yeah, we got a few emails about that. Jimbo, our famous Jimbo, squad number 9, he emailed me the exact same thing. So the fact you've said it must mean there is something to it, because there was somebody else that emailed in as well. Sorry, I can't remember, but yeah, I did get that. And they said there was it was from the arena itself. That he was not allowed to be there. Now, what on earth that is, I don't know. It's not as if WWE ever really travelled to the Alamo Dome that much. So that was interesting.
The first rep that's ever abided by those rules.
Absolutely, yeah. Who knows? Who knows there? Okay, guys. Well, just as we're now getting before we get there, just want to let everybody know what is going on with the podcast currently. We're going to be tying in a lot of new features to the podcast. We've got the 20 back series coming this year, which for those of you that don't know, we're going back 20 years. We done one on the Royal Rumble 97, so that means we're going to go back at WrestleMania season to 1997, WrestleMania 13 of all times. To go back to, we're going to be doing a full review as we normally do with that. Then we are going on to SummerSlam, which of course will be covered in 1997 SummerSlam, so everybody will be able to listen to us on that as well, coming up. And of course Survivor Series 97 will also be covered by us, because we're literally going to have that series flowing through the year. So for those of you that were wondering, don't forget we always love to take suggestions on the Magnificent 7 edition that we do. And again, any topics that you feel are worth stacking a list for, preferably stuff that isn't already on the WWE Network, because there's a lot of that already going on, and sometimes it just can get a little bit repetitive. So we try and do things a little bit more out of the box. Maybe even if it's a non-WWE theme, it's still good for me and Matt. We could probably still do something there. Barring that, just trying to think ahead here, we've also got our Wrestling Arts series, and we're going to be doing a few more of those in the year that we're going to get round to doing. So that'll be good as well. And got some great news now to tell everybody that we're going to be doing our interview series. Now, a lot of people have been asking, when is your next interview? We haven't had an interview for a long time. Now, we normally do get guests on, and they come on time to time in episodes. But what we're going to do now is we're going to start having our own little series now for interviews with talent within the industry. So I'm certainly looking forward to doing that, and announcing that to everybody. And literally we're going to have our first one on this series in February. So that's going to happen. We're probably looking to maybe do at least one a month, and seeing how that goes. So I think that everybody will enjoy that when we get round to that. Hopefully we're going to get to the point where me and Matt will both be on there, where we can actually conduct the interview together. So yeah, all that will be coming up this year. So there's a lot to kind of get through this year. So just to give you guys an inkling. Also, update on the app. The app, there was a slight issue with the app that I wasn't personally too happy with. And just me being the way I am, I don't like sending things out that are sort of half-assed, as I call it. You know, they're not. I'd rather it be a good first impression to all my listeners than something that's just there because, you know, it's the time to put it out and all the rest of it. So it needs a little bit of tweaking. I've been told by the guy the production that are putting it all together that it's not going to be like a majorly long wait. And it's a very easy sort of fixed job that we can do with it. So hopefully, to everybody that wanted to know like what actually happened with the app and all the rest of it, you know, we'll be able to get that up and running for you guys. All there. So anyway, guys, coming up after this short break, we are going to have the full Royal Rumble review. Don't forget, guys, if you want to get in touch with the show, you want to give us your thoughts on the Royal Rumble, be it negative, be it positive, be it whether it's a prediction for the future and all the rest of it, just get in touch with us at the Wrestling Skull Podcast at gmail.com. Just literally send it in there and we'll be happy to read that out. Now, guys, we'll be straight back with you after this brief little part in between us. Join us in about a minute or so. We'll be right back with Royal Rumble review. Yes, you are listening to the Wrestling Skull Podcast. We're back with you now after taking a little brief break there. We're now going to be moving on to, of course, the Royal Rumble itself. And, of course, we're going to start with the pre-show, Matt, as always, on this one. Take it you got to see it first and foremost.
Actually, I'm glad I didn't skip it this time.
Yeah, it's actually one of the more better pre-shows I've seen, and even though it was quite lengthy as well, it was like 2 hours worth of a pre-show, so it was not like even an hour, it was like a whole 2 hours, but actually was actually pretty decent. Like the match quality was a little bit better, I felt, on this one. Like they weren't just putting things out just to fill time, which was cool. What did you make, Matt, first and foremost, of the fact that when I first got to gaze at that arena, I was like, that it didn't quite look like 1997, the Royal Rumble we reviewed, did it? Looks like they've modernised it somewhat, and the lights were quite toned down, I noticed, through the night.
Yeah, I mean, that was what I noticed straight away. I was like, why are the lights quite low? I was like, I hope they're not trying to hide the fact that, you know, it isn't as full as it was in 1997. That's the first thought that came to mind.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the attendance was a lot lower than what it was in the '97 one. Now that could be down, like I don't know officially, but that because of the way they've changed it or structured it, where they've had to modernise it, like through 20 years, they're bound to have done some work in there. That could be the case, but there was a lot of reports going around, Matt, that it's really difficult, unless it's a WrestleMania, to kind of sell big shows. Even though it is, you think San Antonio, what they've done in '97, like I said back then, they actually had to start selling tickets a lot cheaper. Like I'm talking about people were getting in there for like next to $8. Just to fill that thing out. Now, I'm pretty sure they were not gonna do things like that again and start selling them that cheap, which makes me think maybe that's why they did dim those lights somewhat. Because I just thought they were gonna just keep it to the kickoff matches, but they actually kept it like it the entire night, which was quite odd. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out about that and whether they did actually manage to sell it or I'm guessing that they didn't, but we'll probably hear. Matt, let's get straight into it then. I mean, obviously from Texas, the official attendance, by the way, for this that they gave were 52,020. So that was the official attendance that they gave us anyway. And of course, the first match being on the kickoff, Matt, we had Becky Lynch, Naomi, Nikki Bella up against Alexa Bliss, Mickie James, and Natalya in a 3-on-3 match. Not one of my sort of most favourite kind of matches. These are the ones that I always throw back to me when I see women doing these matches. But this wasn't too bad, Matt, and it was okay, like it done everything it needed to do. It went just under 10 minutes, so it was a fairly decent outing, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a shame that these women didn't have much else to do on that night. But, there's only a certain amount of slots and only a certain amount of time. So I think it was good, considering they all had to be like thrown into the same match together like that. I think they did it very well. And, yeah, it's good to see sort of Mickie back in the spotlight kind of picture on the main roster again. So, yeah, it was a pretty good match, like I said. I didn't really expect too much from it, and I was quite surprised that it was the one they went with, actually.
Yeah, well, the result, you mean, yeah, I didn't see that one. It wasn't too bad. Like for everyone, for maybe you might be a new listener and you're wondering, why don't they score these things? We've come to an agreement, myself and Matt, or at least me, on the beginning of last year, in fact, that I wouldn't grade those matches just because sometimes I feel like the ones on the pre-shows, they never either get enough time or the storylines are not the same or they're thrown together in the last minute. So I think it's a little bit unfair sometimes to score those matches. So we literally don't score them anymore. We only score kind of on the main show stuff. So if you're wondering about that. But here's an interesting match, Matt, that I kind of thought this is an interesting place to put this, and it was the fact that not the match itself but just the result that I thought was a little bit interesting was that the WWE Raw Tag Team Championships, of course defended by Cesaro and Sheamus up against the club of Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, which was a very, very good match for a pre-show match, Matt. And actually I'm sort of hesitant as to think why it wasn't maybe on the main show. Like it would have been a little bit more remembered, I guess, if you ever go back in the annals of time. I'm sure nobody's going to keep clicking on the pre-shows when you go back, like we're doing 20 years ago to see what happened. But it's kind of a shame really, because this was pretty good. And I think, for me, Matt, there's sort of like it. The biggest shame for me is the fact that the club, Luke Gallows and Anderson, like they sort of debuted almost this time sort of, well, it wasn't this time, but they were almost signed. We knew they were coming to WWE, didn't we? And, I felt like it's been a long journey for them to get this, even though they're the heels. And there was a bit of a story there. And, I felt like it was a bit of a shame that they got bumped off the main card on it. But nonetheless, a great match. And I have to say, I do enjoy Cesaro and Sheamus, but, I feel like Anderson and Gallows have waited a hell of a long time to get even a sniff at getting the belts, because they've had to, they've endured so much of New Day going into it. And, of course, now these belts might be now, Matt, where the tag team belts just become slightly more easier to win, I guess, now that New Day are not holding those belts.
Yeah, I mean, it was hell of a shame, like what's happened to those guys.